my computer. Go ahead, Allison. Why don't you go ahead and start telling us about yourself?
Okay, I'm Alison Meeks of AM Graphics, and that started out as a bit of a gag from my mom because I am not a morning person, but because of the initials and the fact that I would often stay up really late so that my clients would have whatever it was, back then it was print, they would have whatever they needed in the morning, in the AM. So that's how that came about. A little background, I guess. When I was in school, I wanted to continue on to Sheridan for art and illustration, and ended up taking the bad advice, or maybe the good advice, I'm not sure, of the guidance counselor who suggested that was not a good plan and that I should go and get a real job and be an administrator or something in an office and get a real job. So anyways, when I got out of there, that had been my plan. So I didn't end up going into college because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And ended up coming out of high school in the middle of a recession, which was kind of dodgy timing. But so I spent the first year picking mushrooms, which was probably the most physically fit I've ever been in my entire life, because it was hard slogging. But it did end up getting me my first office job, doing inventory control, because the manager figured that if I was willing to work picking mushrooms, I was probably really wanted to work. So I was there for quite a few years. I started out with Cardex, and then switched while I was there to computer inventory control, which is what turned me onto computers to begin with. Went from there into expediting, and then I did a gig for about 7 years with fleet management, between ordering vehicles from the factory, expediting them. I was a fleet manager for DuPont at the company's location for a year and a half, and into repossessions. So that was an interesting job. And then they had a massive cutback, like 50 of us in one day. So I thought, okay, well, time to maybe retrain here. And I got into desktop publishing. It was just coming out at the time. And so I took time at the program from unemployment here, and went to school for desktop publishing and PageMaker and Corel and early Photoshop, and that started me down this path. I worked for a couple print shops. The big key things that I took from them were layout, but also vector graphics. At the first one, I really learned a lot about vector graphics and print ready stuff. From there, I went on to, well, you will be familiar with this company, Unilock, and I was the assistant to the director of marketing there for 5 years. And it was there that, well, I mean, I had been playing around with the web since the desktop publishing time was when I had my first computer at home. And I thought, oh God, that's really ugly. But it was during my time in marketing that I helped them build a big site, working as an interface between the company and the development team in Toronto, and really liked that. And then they needed a smaller site which we ended up doing with a program called NetObjects Fusion. Some of you may remember that little WYSIWYG tool we had. And so I was, when in 2003, which is, you know, it was about 20 years ago that I started AM Graphics. And I was doing print design for my clients, but I also was starting doing small websites using NetObjects Fusion. And a couple of years later, I was at my computer store, and my guy says, "Hey, you want to meet this other fellow here? He's looking for a designer, and he's working with Joomla." What's a Joomla? And so Bob the Ass Grabber introduced me to Joomla, and while I didn't continue working with him anymore, I did stay obviously with Joomla, and I was just about to give it up because it didn't really have the design flexibility I thought at the time, at least for my skill level. And then 2.5 came out and everything changed. And so that was around 2007 that I started with Joomla. And in 2012, I discovered the Joomla group in Toronto, and everything changed again. I got to meet like all kinds of great people, Joe included, and learned a whole lot of new things, and started administering their Facebook page, amongst other things, with helping organizing the group. And in 2014, Radek says to me, "Hey, how about volunteering with Joomla?" I went, "What do you want with me? I can't code." And he says, "Yeah, but we need other skills." So at that point, he sucked me into the Facebook group, which I still administer, as well as the social media team. And for 8 years, I was at various positions in the social media team. And I guess it was February or March of 2022, myself and Hans and Sandra all gave our resignations, but hung around for the year, hoping to find other volunteers that would step into the social media team so that we could move on and do other Joomla things. And finally, at the end of the year, we said, and we stepped away from it and did all our notes. And so, yeah, social media team really needs some help. If y'all are interested in helping out there, that would be great. I'm still involved as I'm still doing graphics for the social media for events and whatnot. And I had a meeting with Louise this week, and I'm going to be working with her on some special projects for marketing. But for right now, I'm giving myself a little bit of space in my bandwidth. So I'm not joining the team right away, just because I just need some space, but I am going to continue helping with marketing. So I think that was Robin giving me my time is up.
Nope, you've got 1 minute. That was just me saying thank you in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Other stuff about me, into classic cars. I was big into gardening for years when I had my own space that I could do it. Now it's just pots on the balcony. But I was involved in the horticultural community in Georgetown. My art of choice is watercolors. And and classic rock is my gig, even though I don't play anything. So that's me, and I managed no F-bombs the whole time. Go me.
Wonderful, wonderful. I didn't have to bleep her. Anyone got any questions for Alison?
I don't have a question, but I'd just like to say thank you for all your work you've done for Joomla and managing the social Facebook page, because I see, you know, your comments are, and it's always very respectful and very knowledgeable and helpful.
Thank you. It's there was an instance in December that sort of sealed the deal for us to go when somebody thought it was appropriate to chew us out for something that happened with an update. And we thought, yeah, that's enough.
I'm sure.
So,
But Alison, 8 years is a long time, and what a dedication to Joomla and to the community. So thank you very much.
it's been amazing.
Great.
Being, you know, the social media team is the voice of Joomla, and it's really an important job to do, but it's also you know, there's of course having to be available when there's a release day at the time it comes out. The other stuff can mostly be scheduled. It's monitoring channels to make sure, like on Twitter, there used to be like the Twitter wars of, you know, just making sure that, you know, people aren't misbehaving in Joomla's name, and trying to keep it down to a dull roar.
So if anyone here is interested in learning more about the social media team, please reach out to Alison after this meeting, because that would be a great connection.
Yeah, I'm
think all
happy
of
to
you can
answer any
see.
questions and hook you up with the team, because it's really an important job to be able to get the news out to everybody.
I think everyone who gets my email can see everyone else's email. So, or otherwise, Alison, if you want to put a way to contact you in the chat.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you so much for your story.
You can find me on the Facebook group as well.
Okay. And shame on your guidance counselor.
Hey.
We all have these stories on where we want to go, and then you know, people trying to steer us back to a more comfortable.
He's probably dead though.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Tim. It's probably
That's probably true. Yeah.
No, I love these spotlights, and I think everyone can attest to it. After the meetings, we get such great feedback, and it's so everyone lives such interesting lives, and you don't really get to that detail unless you have a spotlight moment. So I encourage anyone who hasn't done it, I will probably reach out to you to be next month's spotlight. So thank you, Alison.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm going to leave here and come in on my desktop so I can see everybody.
Okay, wonderful.
Alrighty,
I'll let
bye
you
for
back
now.
in.
Okay, thanks.
So our next agenda item is our presentation. And this month we decided it would be a cool idea to do kind of a group chat on what our goals are for the year. And maybe from hearing everyone's goals, we can come up with presentation topics, and we can get speakers in that relate to things that will help us all achieve those goals as a kind of a January meeting. So what I'm going to do is just go around, and when we usually introduce ourselves, I want you to just quickly say your name and your business, but then also letting Alison back in. Tell us if you've set any goals for your business this year. And it doesn't necessarily all have to be about Joomla. If there are other things you're trying to learn or trying to get more information about, then maybe I can bring speakers in for those topics as well. Do we have any volunteers to go first? Okay, Pat, go ahead. You want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I had to unmute myself. I have several goals. And one is that I want to get better versed in the page builder programs that are in Joomla. I know we've had a couple of meetings about it, but I don't feel comfortable with it yet. I'm working in page builder in Joom Shaper. And then in Joomla Art has one, and it's really needing a lot of work from their end. And then the one that, and I can't even think of the name of it now, the one that we just had the meeting on a couple of months ago.
Was that Yo theme?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, we had somebody did a presentation on it. And Mary Nevius, I don't even think she's on here today, but she works in it. And she was telling me that that was the one that she would recommend. So I want to get better versed in another direction so that then I can hopefully even let my clients take over their pages better. I think it'd be easier for them if they could see it that way. The other thing is that I've been working on my images in Photoshop, and there's 4 or 5 new plugins from On One that I'm trying to learn and how to integrate them all. But my machine went down, my main machine went down Monday with a dead motherboard. And I'm now speaking to you through my 15-inch laptop that's 5 years old that I haven't used in 3 years. And so actually it's older than 5, but that's all. That's my main focus right now, is just getting a computer system that works again.
I love that you mentioned Mary, and I probably haven't brought it up in this group, but we meet once a month. But if there's someone that you kind of align with in the meeting and you want to follow up with them afterwards and do like your own Zoom calls and share ideas, highly encourage that. So we'll get a little bit about everyone at the meeting, but you can get into a real great conversation if you set up Zooms afterwards.
Well, I went to the Joomla website in Facebook, and I had a question because I was stuck on something, and she responded. And I said, oh, you should come to this Joomla users group in Facebook. And she was already a member.
There you go. Yes, I do have her on my list as person that was signed up to come, but I don't see her yet.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But she's good. She's really good at what she does. So I look to her as a resource. And Alison, that you've been not a resource so much for me as somebody I admired, and I wished I could do as good as you for all this time that I have been in Joomla. You are like one of the pillars of Joomla. For me, anyway. I just wanted to put that in.
Oh, thank you. And Laura mentioned that Yo theme presentation is probably going to be at J-Day USA. Elisa's speaking again. And sometimes when you see the presentation a second time or a third time, if you've been in there trying to use those builders, it might help you even better rather than seeing it for the first time and never have tried it. So if you're still looking to get better with the page builders, I recommend attending J-Day.
I'm hoping that what they'll do is allow me to move faster and produce websites faster for some of these volunteers that I do, like for our 911 board, and try to give them something that'll give them good representation without me having to have hands-on all the time.
Yep, so that's the idea. I love it. Who wants to go next? If I don't see raising the hand, Laura, thank you.
I'll go because I may have to skip out. So Laura Gordon, I'm with Rytech Sites, but my real job, my full-time job is with Rutgers. We manage over 120 websites. We're in the process of, for my real job, upgrading all 120 websites to Joomla 4. We've started, we're using the Cassiopeia template. We've done 8 so far, I think. There's 4 of us on the team. So we're just hitting one at a time and just go through. And then my private sites, I'm also, my only goal is just getting them all to Joomla 4. So we're just going piece by piece. I've reached out to every one of my clients. I have them on a schedule of who's going when and when we're doing what, and just getting through. Some sites are, I have one site that is humongo. It's huge, huge, huge. And it's gonna take like a full year just to figure out how to get them into PHP 7.4. Forget Joomla 4, you know? So that one is like really massive. We started that in the fall and we're literally doing piece by piece. What I did find with that one, their template was, I knew wouldn't work in Joomla 4, but it was so customized that it wouldn't even work in PHP 7.4. So what I've decided to do was I regrouped, and actually we're rebuilding the template. I'm working with Elisa on it using UTheme's page builder in Joomla 3. So that way, when we're ready to go to 4, at least the site is ready to go. And I really think that's the best practice for any of you that are approaching that. The cleaner you can have the Joomla 3 site, the easier the upgrade is. Because I did upgrades for my smaller clients. It took like a half hour, like literally, because it was just all ready to go. So if you can make sure the template, the extensions, anyway. So yeah, that's my my goal, and it's fun. So
Oh, and I feel like we had that presentation at a timely time for you, and you took it and ran with it.
that's what did it, because when she did that, I'm like, I know UTheme works in Joomla 4 because I did it with other sites, and I'm like, but we need a little bit more. So we use the page builder approach, so that way we could export it. We're doing this all in test environments, and I keep rebuilding the site in a test environment and rebuilding it again, and then yeah, it's a lot of back and forth, but anyway, yeah. So thank you.
I'll pick up
Anyone?
next, only because I've got somebody that's going to be incoming here and
Alison?
may have to deke out. For 2023, I want to get more connected with my own stuff. Putting out articles, writing for the Joomla magazine, more things like that. I just launched my Joomla 4 site last night. Scared the hell out of me whether I was ready to go or not, but there it is anyhow. And lots of talk about the page builders. And this isn't really a goal per se, but I'm wondering about the thoughts from people on, with page builders, you're pulling your articles out of com content.
No, mine is, it's staying in com content. The page builder is just displaying it.
Okay.
Everything is core Joomla. At least that's the way my approach is. I would never do the, yeah.
Okay, because I've been pulled in on, can you give me a hand with this or that? One was on SP, page builder, and it was like there was not a damn thing in core.
Oh,
And I'm like, what are you gonna, like, it just sort of freaked me out, because I mean, I noticed, I went back and listened to some previous intros before I did mine this morning. And I noticed with Joe, he was also a Juice Trap guy, as was I. And also with you watching the Joomla group on Facebook for so long, over and over and over, it's like, keep your stuff in com content.
mm-hmm.
That was always the big issue with K2.
Yeah.
And with other Zoo and some other things. And then when they didn't work anymore, then you got to pull it all back out again. So I'm interested to hear, maybe not this time, but in general, like how people are handling that with the page builders.
I like that CK is sponsoring J-Day USA, because I've been using their template creator and their page builder. And what I've been telling people is, don't put your content in the page builder. So if you have a blog or things that you're adding lots, just leave that in the core. But where I like the page builder is for making specialty pages, because it's got the widgets and different things like accordions or FAQ or all sorts of things. So I'm using that on special pages. And what I really like on how I've been using CK Page Builder, and Pat, there's a free version of that that you can try with some of the things. So it's Page Builder CK, is that I use the Page Builder in modules, which is really nice. I find it, so if a footer or a contact, sorry, I've been sick. But for doing some really nice designs using the plugins in modules to put in different places on the template, I've been really liking that. But I'm advising my clients, don't do your blog, don't, use articles for articles, but use the page builder for all the bells and whistles and other things that you like to pop in. Because if the page builder reaches end of life or isn't supported anymore, all you have to do is change some modules then and come up with a new FAQ page or something, but all your other stuff is there.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm just gonna call on people. Anna, wanna
Mhm.
say hello?
Yes, okay, so I'm Anna from Sweden and I'm a graphic designer, but now I'm going to talk about goals and topics, right? Okay, so I don't have specific Joomla goals, but they apply to, my goal I think it could apply to a Joomla agency as well. So I've lost my 3 biggest clients during the last couple of years. So that's why my biggest goal, number 1, is to acquire new clients. And figure out how to market my services. Target audience, what their pain points and goals are, and where to find them. And also figure out if I should change my services altogether. And this popular niching down thing. So that is the third goal is figuring out if I should change my services. And that is also a topic I was thinking about, niching down, because niching down, it could be like you have a specific or very narrow target audience, or it could also be that you have that you narrow down your services, right? Or it could be both. So I don't know what you think, if that's an interesting subject.
I think that's a wonderful subject, and I'm actually like a huge networker and do a lot of sales and marketing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's like I'm a website designer, but I'm also my whole company. So in order for me to design websites, I need to be able to network. But I'm curious as to whether you'd be interested in SEO, having people call you, or if you're interested in topics about networking and public speaking and or sales. Kind of, those are great topics. And so depending on what you're interested in, we could get speakers on that for sure.
Yeah, but no, it was the niching down thing I was thinking about. If it's
A lot of
I mean,
that can be your SEO, and anyone will tell you in SEO that if you set a net too wide, you won't get anything. And so when you can look back at your business and think what jobs, and this is a good time of year to do it, is what jobs you loved doing last year, and could you get more of those? And then think about what it is exactly the target is for that type of business. So for instance, maybe you really like designing websites for law firms. Well, then you can change your marketing to attract
exactly this,
right?
But my problem, but this is very personal for me. My problem is I'm not clear about my target audience, and it hasn't been such a big problem. But then I lost these clients that I've had for 20 years plus.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, marketing in general is a great topic, and I'd be interested to hear when other people set their goals, whether or not they have similar goals to Anna, and maybe from a collective, we can bring in some speakers who could help us with analyzing our businesses and maybe setting goals and marketing plans going forward. Wonderful topic, Anna. Thank you. And I got my doorbell. So Rich, welcome. I let you in. Let's go to, let's make sure we only have one Paul. We have a Paulo and we have a Paul. Let's go with Paul first, and then we'll go to Paulo second. I think I made that mistake.
Great. Thanks. So yeah, Paul Search, Three Cats Marketing. Anna, I definitely want to talk to you at some point, because what you're talking about is exactly what I do as my main thing. So yeah, my basic goals for, at least for the first part of the year, I would love to have a virtual coffee with everybody in this group, just to kind of get to know you a little bit and see kind of what you guys do and see how I can maybe help you guys. I definitely need more work, and I would love to be able to like white label messaging and like wireframes for websites, the content on the landing page, so that you guys can then take that and put that into a nice looking website. So that's kind of the big thing. As far as topics, yeah, I really like the idea of marketing. You know, because obviously websites are part of marketing, and you know, I think we all need to kind of see how that fits into there and what goes on with that. So yeah, if you want to talk, please hit me up. I've got my my virtual coffee link right there. So
I'm a big fan of one-to-ones and doing meetings outside the group. So I love your goal of wanting to meet with each of us virtually as your goal. And I would definitely take you up on that. Sharing of ideas is never a waste of time. So, and a very smart goal, because you can measure it and you can achieve it. I love it. Next, Paulo.
Hi, I'm Paulo from Portugal. Right now I don't have any goals. It's open, and I'm here mainly to keep the enthusiasm and keep updated about Joomla, because last time I worked with Joomla, it's still version 3. I have a couple of clients, but nothing. I'm doing nothing especially. I'm just updating the websites. So I have a lot of plans in my head, but it's really open, and I don't have a schedule, a time for doing them. Maybe next week, maybe next year. So I will keep joining you guys if you allow me to keep updated and feel your enthusiasm. Thank you.
Yes, come anytime, Paulo. And once you try out Joomla 4, you will never go back. If you're in 3.10, you will love it. So if you can get a chance to do one more website and start it in 4, I highly recommend it.
Great, appreciate it.
Yes. Lisa, why don't we hear from you?
Hey, so funny, I actually went to a meeting in a different networking group earlier this week, and we did a whole like goal worksheet. It was like a goal setting session where you had like 1 year, 3 to 5 year, and 10-year goals for personal, financial, and business. So I had got them written down already, which is very useful. And generally, one of the things that has been on my goals list for a few years now is that I've been working on a rebrand. My current business name is LMK Web Design and Consulting, and I formed that in 2006 when I was doing all of my own web designs. I had a background in layout, design layout, doing journalism, actually, newspaper layout, and that kind of transferred over to the web. But I don't do that anymore. I have people that work for me that do that instead. So I got a new name several years ago. Like, I've already changed it with the IRS. I've had my business cards for 3 years. I just haven't launched my website yet. And I did that thing where my initial website was in Joomla. I moved it to WordPress a few years later because I had started building sites on that and wanted to play with it. And then built it back in Joomla, I guess 3 years ago now. So it's a 3.10 site, started in 3.5, and now I need to upgrade it to 4 and actually launch it so that I can use the business cards that have been sitting on my desk for 3 years, at least 3 years. I'm pretty sure I got them in 2019, but it might have been, no, that was 4 years ago. So I don't know what happened during COVID. So anyway, that's my main goal for the year, is to get that site upgraded to J4 and actually launched, so that I can start using publicly facing my new business name instead of the old one that's just not comprehensive enough for all the services that I offer. Because in addition to building and maintaining websites, I do, I'm a reseller for hosting and domain name registration. And as part of my team, we do SEO and marketing assistance and graphic design and printing and just a whole bunch of stuff. So I needed a more comprehensive business name. And this is the year 2023 that I'm going to make it happen. So I want to throw out there on the page builder discussion that I'm a gantry person, and gantry works great on both J3 and J4. Although I haven't upgraded a site on it yet, I have both J3 and J4 sites running, but I occasionally will use SP Page Builder for like a conference page, kind of one-off pages that my clients need to be able to make fancy on their own without any programming assistance from me. So they can do things like easily create, speaker bios and cool looking agendas and pop-ups and put a map in the background, and I don't need to do anything. They can do it themselves. And I have found that SP Page Builder 4 does not play well on Joomla 4, at least if you're using Gantry, because every time you go to edit, the way Gantry works is that, well, just like all Joomla things, you can assign templates to pages, and my homepage template's always very different than our styles. I guess my homepage style is always very different than the interior style. And every time you go to edit, it bumps you to the front end. There's no more back end editor in SP Page Builder 4. And it always puts it on the homepage style, regardless of what style is assigned to the menu item. And SP Page Builder people, Joom Shaper, keep telling me that it's not their problem. So I'm looking for something new that works well with J4. So I might check out UTheme or CK. I'm not sure, but I need something that I can have on kind of a, one-off on pages that you can make really nice looking fancy things that don't need, a developer to work on and, CSS or PHP coding. Like someone can drag and drop it and make it look pretty. So I'm in the market, I guess, for another template builder that works well on J4 with Gantry. That's the caveat, is I build all my sites on Gantry, so it's got to work with that. So that's my goals for the year.
Lisa, I may have missed it, but what's your new business name?
It's LMK Web Services. And if you go to the URL, you'll see it's a J4, well, J3 site that's on offline mode.
It's like Beetlejuice. If you say it enough times, it'll become real.
It will, yes. Yeah, I know. It's like I have a bank account in that name, and my email address works in it. And the other networking group, I'm actually going by that business name now. But if they try to go to the website, it's nothing. So
just fake it. You'll make it. You know all the stuff, so you can do it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where I've been in business so long. I have a lot of repeat clients, and I haven't needed to really market much. It's 95% plus referrals, and I tend to have more work than time. So it's one of those things that makes you lazy. You don't work on your own business when you've got client work to do. So hopefully, meeting groups like this help folks.
Lisa, we call that the shoemaker's kid syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Shoemaker's kids never have shoes.
No shoes. Yep.
Yep.
I love that. Who is next? I put my Ellen, yes. I was going to say, I put whenever I do a launch, I put them up on my website and add them to my portfolio. And I had like 8 of them to do in this month. So it's been a backlog, and you're right. It's secondary when it's not.
What is your stuff? Yeah, I don't have a portfolio. People have asked. I'm like, no, there's not one. Here's a list. I just don't have.
All right, let's go. Ellen, you can go next.
Okay, hi, I'm Ellen Rothwax in Fairfield, Connecticut, and I do websites for small businesses and professionals. My goal this year is to master Utheme Pro so that I can make my transitions for all my migrations. But the more I work with it, the more I'm finding I have an issue, which I'm sure can be resolved, but I just get hung up on certain things, and I just don't really think I'm doing it in the right process. And Laura, I think you might be a mind reader. I will call you. But you just put a in the chat, if the issue is front-end editing, a workaround is create pages dedicated to front-end editing using Cassiopeia. So that is exactly an issue I just came across. I just close to finishing a new site, and I'm using the dynamic content because I do want to keep everything in the Joomla core if I can. But I'm finding when I go to the front end to edit, I'm getting a page builder. And I need to be able to have the client edit the actual content, and I can't figure out how to do it. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong, and my communication with the forum at Utheme, I don't know, it's just, we're missing some communication there. They're not understanding what I'm asking.
You might want to check out Peter Martin as well. He is very, very versed in you.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, I'd love to have a mentor, somebody I could turn to for some silly questions that sometimes I find as I'm writing out the question, the answer, comes to me that I just didn't think of before, but I'd like to have somebody to turn to just brainstorm some things. So if anybody wants to volunteer who feels they know Utheme Pro, I'd love to have that contact.
I can make a suggestion if you'll contact Mary Nevius, because that's what she does all the time. All the time. That's mostly what she's doing.
What's her name?
Mary Nevius, I guess that's how you pronounce it.
I will put it in the chat.
Okay.
And
So
Robin, perhaps a second part to Elisa's session that she did the other day when she kind of did a little teaser on Utheme is the front end editing piece, because I think you can do it. It's just you need to build a page builder for that category that's dedicated to the editing piece. That's the problem, because what's happening is the page builder is taking over. Once you have that set up, Joomla thinks we're in page builder mode. So maybe similar to what I did with my stuff, but the problem is once you hit edit on the category list on the article, if there's a menu item dedicated to that article and that's bringing up page builder, then you might get stuck there, and I'm not sure. So I think that's a really valid question, and maybe it wouldn't be that long of a session because it's very specific. It's saying, how do we get into editor mode when using a page builder?
Yeah, it just seems to me it would have been so obvious to Utheme people when they
because it takes over, remember, and they're not coming from the front end editing perspective. So if the page builder is going to take over, then it's showing the modules and the elements that are part of that. So it
totally ignores the fact that you can edit the content because you can't get to the content from the front end.
Yeah, I'm going to have that on my site. So I'm going to come up with a solution.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Well, there you go. I think we need to follow up on this one. Anything else, Ellen? For now?
No, not really.
Okay. I think accountability or mentors are a great idea for a goal for this year, and certainly take advice from people in this group or any suggestions they make. And I think Pat mentioned that she reached out on the Facebook page and got some good responses. So maybe utilize the Facebook page as a place if you're really stuck,
I have.
to put a question out there and see if that helps too. Or you can just be proactive and reach out to Mary as a suggestion, or Laura. All right, how about Frank? Do you want to say hello?
Sure. Hi, I'm Frank. I'm in Ventura County, California, South Central Coast, and I own a single member LLC, EFN Web LLC, which is just my initials, Frank Nilsson, with E in front and Web on the back. And I'm approaching 19 years now, self-employed in business. I've been working with Joomla since Joomla 1, and building sites, supporting sites. Where I'm going now is I've been for the past couple of years moving away from building brand new sites because I'm finding that to build a really good new site, I mean, unless if they're really small, but to build a good brand new website these days, you just need too many skill sets, more skill sets than I as one person can provide. You need marketing, you need SEO, accessibility, design, right? And a certain level of development. So I'm moving into an area of more support. Accessibility is a big area that I'm starting to focus on with clients because they're asking about that. And on that subject, by the way, what I'm finding is that template developers are not using semantic code in many cases. And that's a problem because in order to retrofit that, you have to actually get into the HTML and potentially the CSS and JavaScript. So if I could shake some template developers up, and if you're going to use, for instance, if you're going to have a button, don't use an A tag with a style, use button. There's an HTML tag for that. And I'm also on the subject of page builders. I use SP Page Builder and the Helix Ultimate template. I had in a rush about 3-4 years ago, had to get into something. So that was the quickest way to just do that at that time. But I'm less impressed with them because on Joomla 4.2.6, the Helix Ultimate template has 143 overrides that have not been addressed for a while. And I'm just wondering about that. Like somebody else mentioned that they were having some issues with SP Page Builder. And so that is something that I really wish that I'm not going to go in and try to address those overrides myself because I feel like it's their responsibility. And also on page builders, I'm going to probably try CK because aside from moving the content out of the core, the other issue is that for clients who are managing their content, it's a departure from the workflow. And so that runs into a situation where they're confused. They don't know how to update the content. They're used to doing it one way, either in articles or modules or whatever. And all of a sudden now they're in this other thing that they don't understand. Related to that, going forward, I've also stepped up to volunteer for the documentation buddies on Joomla because this is an area I'd like to go into is more technical writing. And in fact, a little bit over 10 years ago, I got so many of the similar questions from my clients that I produced a little PDF brochure called Basics of Joomla. And it was just like for manager level users or administrator level users. Here's how the content or the categories, articles, menus, module, how that all flow works and how to get to stuff with some like basic 1, 2, 3 screenshots. Here you go. And that was really helpful for people. So I'd like to do more of that. Another thing I wanted to mention that in the past, I've also done translation work for RSE or for RS Joomla for some of their components. RS Events Pro is the first one. I did Norwegian language translating. I'm originally from Norway. So that's where I am these days.
That's very interesting, Frank. Thank you also for stepping up and volunteering. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And
Maybe we
I,
can all get fewer questions from our clients.
right. And I think the end of last year, people mentioned maybe getting accessibility as a topic in here as well. And I've done a little bit with that, and I completely relate. Some
Mhm.
things are just so common sense, but they're not used. And so I'll definitely have that on the list of topics. And it's interesting where you're going. And I totally agree with having to wear so many hats, and it will come up when I say my goals. But we're gonna jump over now to Yorgos. Are you there? I know your camera's off, but you did say you were there earlier. And I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
My name is Yorgos. I'm from Alhambra, a small village in Cyprus. I joined the group because I like to see what's going on in the Joomla community. I'm working with that from Mambo time.
Yep.
And so far I have already converted my sites to Joomla 4, even though I haven't make them on live. I have all of them on my server. I don't have any problem with that. And I found it actually easy to do it. So in the future, what I'm willing to do is to make more websites. And that's all.
All right. Short and sweet. No, that's good. You're having great success moving them over, and you're going to continue from 4 going forward. And I think that's a goal for a lot of us.
Yes.
To get to that point, and you've gotten there. I love it. Joe, want to say hello?
Yes, hi, I'm Joe. I'm from Canada. I'm in the same city that Alison is in. It's a place called Guelph, Ontario. My website brand is Joe Joomla, and I've been doing that for, I guess, since 2005. And so my goal that I'm working towards for 2023 is to improve my personal quality of life. One of the things that I know from experience is that when you are a freelancer, solo entrepreneur, sometimes your work to life balance is way out of whack. You're doing 90% work and 10% life. And this is very detrimental to your personal well-being. You need to ask yourself the question, if you're on your last breath and you know that you're about to exit stage right from this life, would your last thought be, I wish I spent more time at the office? And when I ask that question to myself, I say, no, there are things that are more important, and work should be your servant, shouldn't be your master. So my goal this year is to, and I'm already on the way of making these changes, is to enjoy life and while I'm still good and healthy. The last 2 years was a big eye-opener with the way the world changed, and it made me realize that we're on this conveyor belt that is going very, very quick. And we're just in survival mode for the most part. You know, people losing big clients, and I understand that earning a living is very important, but sometimes the living owns you, and you need to be able to change that, and you can change that. And what I'll do at the end of 2023 is hopefully be in a position where I can help people to navigate some of those changes for themselves, because the issue will become making the decision that your life should be better, making the decision that you should be getting what your value really is, and that you're not being taken advantage of. If you think about it, all this, and somebody mentioned this before with saying, you know, building a new website, thinking about all the skills that you need to have. You have to be an expert in so many different things. But think about this. Your accountant or a lawyer or a doctor has a very small defined set of things that they specialize in, and they're very, very well paid for what they do, and they stay updated in their skills. But what's different about you when you need to know HTML, CSS, PHP, web, servers, all kinds of technology, stay up on all these things. I'm just finding that Lily Tomlin said, in life, if you're in the rat race, even if you win, you're still a rat. And so for 2023, I'm no longer going to participate in the rat race. I'm going to make the change, and hopefully at the end of the year, I'll have something that I can share with people, and I'll transition out of, the hard, where the return on investment is not big enough for the energy level that's been put in, and that we're making the changes so that you enjoy life and you get rewarded for what you do. So that's me.
I like that, Joe. That's a very hard thing to do, and we need to give ourselves more credit, and ask for more in return for the expertise that we bring. And it's part of being a business owner. It's hard to do that, and it's a very good goal. I appreciate that. Let's go to Alan next, and then we'll go to Mike and Tim and Richard. We've got 4 more. Give me one.
Anyway, I'm Alan Badiger. I own RTSI LLC. I do embedded software. Web development is something I do for my own websites, and then I'm now a director of in a 501c3 involved with FCC testing. So I'm also putting over all their websites. There's several of them this company hosts. My company websites and personal websites are all currently in Joomla 3. And I'm in the process of getting ready to port them all up to Joomla 4. I think I checked the other day, and the last few modules I need are now available in Joomla 4. So I'm going to start porting those over. They're fairly simple. But that sort of takes a backseat to my primary business, which is embedded software development. We're trying to get a software release out, and for the last 6 months, we've been doing testing. An embedded software market, our software it's expected to be turned on and run, and they come back 10 years later and it has 10 years worth of runtime on it. And it's not supposed to fail. And so we have to do some pretty extensive testing. 6 months worth of testing is not unusual. And we're looking at trying to get that released probably next month. So we're coming up to the end of our what we call harness testing, software testing. Besides migrating my sites, I'm going to hopefully migrate the 501c3 sites. And I've already migrated a couple of them. The rest of them are going to be more challenging. They're all written in like PHP 2 or 3 and MySQL 4. So they're extremely old. I think they were all written in the early 90s. So migrating those sites is basically a rewrite. So my primary goals this year are to get the software released, get my sites updated, get the 501c3 sites updated, and enjoy life along the way. I have a very hard schedule I maintain. It's like today, I will stop at 3 o'clock to go pick my granddaughters up from school and take them home and spend a couple hours with them, and then take them to gymnastics. On the weekends, I always try and make time to go see my granddaughters, either at hockey or gymnastics or whatever they're doing. But I don't work on weekends. I mean, I try to keep weekends for family things. Also evenings are for me and my wife. I pretty much draw the line at 5:30. To get me to work past 5:30, there's got to be some really good reason. I've been self-employed since 1993, which I guess means I'm coming up on my 30th anniversary this summer. And I learned the lessons the hard ways in the first few years I was self-employed. I would just literally burn myself out working all day and all night. So I learned, I don't know, several years ago, probably over a decade ago, to start drawing some pretty hard lines around times and events. Anyway, that's pretty much my goals for this year, is to get these websites, get the software released, get these websites ported, continue enjoying my family. I mean, I'm not exactly a young guy, so setting up for retirement, so to speak. I do want to keep the software business going for a while. There's no way I can live off Social Security alone. So I need a little extra income. But other than that, that's pretty much my general direction for this year.
Yeah, close out some of those lingering projects, enjoy life, and keep that brain moving. And why not? If we like what we do, why not keep doing it? That's the thing. Those are great, Alan. Mike, want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Mike Kreitzer. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. As of last year, I became an independent contractor after 20 years working for the same company. Long story. I have all my sites, there's not a lot, but they're still in Joomla 3. I had a lifetime developer license for Joomla Shack and Joomla Shine. And both of them, well, Joomla Shine went out of business just as Joomla 4 came out. And Joomla Shack decided not to support their templates. So I don't have a path to 4 for those sites, but I'm taking the opportunity to force them into rebuilding, which is just going to be more work for me. So that works out, actually. I have started working on my first Joomla 4 site, and also it's my first UTheme Pro site. I was always dead set against page builders for the many reasons that were mentioned, as far as you're stuck in them. And now that I had the experience of having companies go out of business or not support their software, it was quite an eye-opener to where do I want to really invest my time and energies into. And what I'm finding with UTheme is it's very deep, kind of like Joomla, where there's so many different places to control something that it's a bit of a learning curve, but it's super powerful. I don't know, maybe that's a good thing. Last year, they raised their pricing structure. So it just makes me feel like, well, now they're making enough money that they're going to continue to stay in business, where I know people that were offering the lifetime developer licenses found out, like Joomla Shine, that they weren't able to stay in business because of that. Instead of coming to the community and saying, hey, maybe we need to switch our pricing structure, and would you be willing to pay a yearly fee now? They just decided to say, goodbye. So with UTheme Pro, I noticed that quite a few main people that are involved with Joomla started using it, and I tested their sites on their demo sites on page speed test sites, and they're blazing fast out of the box. And they seem to keep upgrading their systems to offer the latest technologies, like getting your images to be WPs. It's just a flip of a switch and all of them load, get processed and converted to that. So I'm pretty happy with it so far. The one site that I'm hopefully going to launch the 1st of next month, their old site was an ASP site, and it's pretty bad. And so they're going to be, they're really happy with where we're at so far with the new design and the new, just the whole structure of their site. One thing I always, in older templates, I always did a lot of CSS hacking to make it look how I wanted it, but I would use a template as a starting point. And I was doing that with UTheme because you can put in custom CSS in the back end. And then I would later found, oh, here's how you control that, what I was trying to control. And so then I had to go and back out my custom CSS because it was a simple toggle switch or setting. So far I'm really happy with UTheme. I think they're gonna, I hope they stick around. I'm not using them for the news blog section, but for the main pages of the site that's heavily page built. So I would like, maybe I'll later, as I understand it more, I'll be able to figure out how to keep it inside of Joomla and less, or maybe bring it in dynamically, which is really nice about UTheme, is a lot of things can be brought in dynamically. So yeah, that's what I'm investing my time as far as building sites is. It's going to be with UTheme, and hopefully they stick around for a long time and continue to upgrading their system. As far as my goals, I didn't really have any other than trying to get to a more nomadic lifestyle. At the end of 2018, I went fully remote. So I've been doing it for a while. It's hard to, for me, it's hard to differentiate between personal time and work time. It seems like it's all work time kind of when you're working from home. Yeah. What else? I'm getting more involved with the Joomla volunteering and community. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, hopefully maybe I'll be connecting from Costa Rica or Spain or something soon.
Those are nice goals. You're like the 8th person who's spoken and said about bringing those sites over to J4, that it made me think that maybe we should start something in our Facebook group, and every time you get a site from 3 to 4, you post it up there and we all celebrate it. Because we're all in the same boat this year, and we should use that Facebook group to kind of cheer each other on, because it is going to be overwhelming, and hopefully with each other's support we can get through it. And I love that you tested for the speed. They say Joomla 4 core is so fast in comparison, and you did it with the template on top of it, or the builder on top of it. And I'm going to bring up some of those questions too when I go. All right, Tim, say hello.
Hello, everybody. Hey, correction, CK is not a sponsor of JDay USA. Akiba is. Laura sent me a message there. When I looked at the Akiba logo, the A has a curve in it, and an arrow, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, it looked like a C to me. So just that.
Maybe you need to reach out to them and tell them to sponsor.
Yeah, maybe. One of my goals for this year was something that came out of this group back in late fall, and Mark Holberg's not here anymore, but late fall, he said he was looking for someone to buy his business. So long story short, I did.
Wow, he did, he dropped off. He was gone.
Yeah, he had to, I guess he had to leave. But anyways, so we just sealed the deal at the beginning of the year. So we're working on transitioning, and I'm setting up his clients on my system and different things like that. So that's a goal of mine. He's retiring, wanted to go into do some other things with his business. So that worked out well, and he has clients that are needing Joomla 4 migration. So that yeah, it worked out, and it's been nice working with him and getting to know him. And so that's a great thing in networking in this group. So that is a
success story for why we're all here. I love that so much.
Yeah. So that was so that's good. I've been, we just,
Bless you.
sorry, I've been sick for almost a month, but I'm getting over it, but I had the flu. Then when my wife and I caught the flu before Christmas, and then in the New Year's, we thought we'd give RSV a try. So, but anyways, yeah, I'm doing support for PHP web design now. They've got Migrate Me 4, which is a really great tool for doing Joomla 4 migration, setting up a staging area for testing things. And I have coupon codes. So if anybody wants to use that, I'd be more than happy to share the code with you for that. So if you're interested in knowing more about that tool, you could contact me. But anyways, yeah, so that's one of the things I have going on early in the year.
That's interesting. Allowing somebody to sell off their business as an exit strategy, and someone in the group starting off new and gaining all of that new business. I love that. And I am going to ask you for those coupon codes, because that's how I'm going to do mine when I get.
I'd post it here if you want. That's
yes.
Yeah. The biggest one is 20% off, and it's massive 20.
Nice, thank you.
That's there in chat. So and
I hope you start to turn the corner with your health and start healing and getting better.
Yeah, actually yesterday was the best day in a long time for not coughing when I talk, but I feel much better than I sound. But
and if we have you talking just a second longer, what is your presentation going to be at J-Day USA?
It is going to be on I forget the exact title, Better Help for a Better Joomla. So it's just gonna look at some of the principle, because we've all been there where we've asked for help for something in Joomla, and then someone's tried to help us and we've regretted it immediately. Just looking at some of the principles and methods of actually helping people with things in Joomla and in other areas, so that because I think that's good for our community and for the Joomla project. If we're able to help people, then that's going to be good. So for instance, one of the things that I'll talk about is when someone asks you for help, it's an opportunity to share what you know, not show what you know. All right, and sometimes we see examples in the Facebook group or that someone will ask a question, and the classic is, hey, I'm looking for a template for a bakery. Any suggestions? And someone says, why don't you build your own template? And it's like, no, that's not what that person needs, right? So anyway, so that's what I'll be talking about.
Wonderful. That's a great topic. Thank you for volunteering to present. Rich, I feel like you got out of a car and now you're walking in a building and you're at your desk right at the exact time we're going to ask you to speak, which is perfect timing.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, wonderful.
Amazing. That was incredible timing. Yeah, I've been driving the entire time during the thing. I had to go and make an emergency rescue mission because my sister-in-law with a train had broken down out in the New Forest, which is like some 30 miles away. No buses, no nothing. Some very grumpy one-year-old children. So you got to do what you got to do. So, hi everyone. For those who don't know me, my name's Richard. I run a web design agency in Dorset in the UK, which is down on the south coast. I've been working, I guess I'm a relative newbie as far as Joomla goes. I've been working with it about 5-6 years, I suppose. And when it comes to page builders, I'm not a purist. I bloody love them. I think they're great. I can achieve what I want in a fraction of the time. If I was hand coding, I can hand code. I'm just probably very, very lazy. So I think they're great. I use Helix and SP Page Builder. They're my sort of weapons of choice, I guess you could say. Goals for this year. Well, my own site, as all of you know, as a designer, it's really easy to design for other people, but designing for yourself is an absolute nightmare. And so every 18 months to 2 years, I get bored with my own site and think, I've got to redesign this. I got to change it. So one of the things I want to do, my current site is in Joomla 3. So I want to do a complete rebuild, strip it down, streamline it, make it more efficient. It works well. People like it. It does the job. We get a lot of inbound leads from it. So I want to keep what works and ditch the bits that don't. What else? I'm doing a lot more. I specialize in e-commerce and I use other platforms for that, but I am doing more and more with Joomla actually, because there are some quite good plugins. I use eShop. I've done a couple of sites. One's very bespoke. It's for a veterinary pharmaceutical site, and actually it'll automatically generate a prescription and send the order through to the wholesaler. There's a lot of customization that's gone on there, and I don't think I could have done that with OpenCart or the other platforms that I was doing. So yeah, so I want to just kind of keep doing stuff with Joomla, learn more about it. I took delivery of Luca's excellent book last week, so the master class. I'm just kind of filling in some of the gaps in my knowledge, which are quite considerable, I got to say, but we're getting there. So what I don't think, I guess personal goals, I suppose, as some of you know, I'm a musician. I'm in an 80s band and we're doing more and more and bigger gigs. So I want to carry on doing that. And in an ideal world, I'd be just kind of in a minibus, kind of touring and gigging and living the high life. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. So you've got to work. So I'm quite happy doing the Joomla stuff. I've run out of stuff to say.
All right. So you're the second person who's got to work on their own website this year and get it up. So get it up to a redesign and current. All right. Is there anyone that I've missed? I know we've lost a couple of people because it is an hour and a half. But I am last, so I'll go last and wrap us up. And I think this was a great meeting. And I loved hearing everyone's personal goals and struggles and hopes for the coming year. My whole change of the way that I'm running my business this year is I've always been a web developer. I code and I don't use page builders. I actually build my own templates every time. I build to spec. And but I've always done it side by side with a graphic designer. And I know it was mentioned before that we have all these hats, but I strictly just build websites in Joomla to spec. And I have a graphic designer that I work with, and I have an SEO person that I work with, a content writer that I work with. And this year I'm deciding to just change my thinking and list us as an agency. So I changed my pricing to include, you need these services and here are the prices, and let's decide at the beginning of the project rather than we're 3 months in and you're not writing anything and now I need to staff a writer and add on to your pricing. So I'm changing how I'm doing it, and it's very scary because I feel like I might not get business if I have a bigger price tag at the beginning. But again, it goes to the conversations that were mentioned here today. We have to assume that we're very experienced, we're experts, and we can charge more, and people should respect that and pay for that, and we should make more money for the time that we spend doing things. The other goal, so that's happening, and I am wrapping up jobs from last year, but I do not have new ones yet, and I'm very nervous. But I'm also doing a ton of new networking, and I'm moving into certain areas. Ellen will know I'm in the northeast corner of Connecticut, in the middle of the woods, and I'm moving over to Hartford to try to drive new clients because that's more of a bustling city. And trying to get even mid-sized companies. I'm trying to move up into companies with 20 employees versus the solopreneurs. So I'm making some very targeted changes for the new year. But I'm also curious for anyone who, and I think Frank mentioned it, or he may have dropped off. Accessibility, I did a lot of learning on how to do websites and accessibility. And I'm looking for a tool that can run automatically and test my sites and without doing too much manual. And I've only used the free stuff that's available. And I'm wondering if anyone has anything that they have a paid service that does it, because I am going to try to push more of that and I need to streamline it. And I wouldn't mind paying if I could do my site and then test it every so often to make sure it still stays accessible. So.
I
Robin,
recently,
oh, go ahead, Frank.
no, go
Oh,
ahead.
yes, Frank, you are there. I thought you dropped off. Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm here. I was going to say, I just recently came across a tool called Polypane, and apparently it's a browser. I haven't tried it. It's not free. It's polypane.app. I can put it in the chat.
Yes, if you could, that'd be great.
And I've been anxious to try this because the free tools like the Wave
Yep.
tool will show you one page at a time.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you on that. I'd really like to find something that can kind of scan a whole site and find and generate a report, which would also help to generate an accessibility statement. So, which I've done a couple of those for smaller sites, kind of manually working through and at least getting them to AA. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Frank, I think you and I are going to have to follow up and we'll both try it.
Great.
And Robin and Frank, I actually have a tool that does that. And I saw it as part of a website maintenance package. It does all the accessibility. Basically, plug one line of code into your theme, and it does all the accessibility stuff for you. It also does an accessibility audit if you want to see kind of where you're at before you do that. And also bundled in with that is also like I use Watchful to make sure everything keeps updated. So if you're interested, let's talk.
Yeah, I do Watchful as well. And I'm because I code my websites myself, I have a lot of control over the way that it turns out as far as accessibility goes. And I use all the practices, but that statement that Frank is talking about that I can hand over to a client, that's where I kind of lack. But I am interested to see what your tools, I'm more interested in the audits, not so much putting on like the accessibility stuff on top of it, you know. I like a pure accessible site. But we're going to talk anyway. We have a virtual coffee. I'm going to put it on my calendar. So I appreciate that. And that's going to be one of our topics.
If you go to my website, you'll see down in the bottom left corner exactly what that tool will do. So
okay. Yes.
I think that the overlay tools like Accessibility.
Yeah, that's not what I'm interested in.
No, they've been sued actually. So because they're not truly they're an overlay, but they're not truly, how do I put this? Accessibility cannot fix, for instance, code that's not semantic.
Yeah, I'm more of a, and that's a whole nother conversation, but yeah, I've taken the classes, the W3C and understand how users are using the websites, and I get to I try to use best practices on the code level so it's really clean, so you don't really need the overlay when you do that. But I am interested in the testing part because I want to be able to come up with something that I can hand over to a client and say, look, it's been through the test. You know, I charge for it, but I don't really have like that last step. So that's why I'm gonna look at the Polypane, and I'm gonna be following up with Paul also on his presentation. Maybe he can do a presentation for us. I do feel like I asked if I missed anyone and didn't even listen to see if anyone answered. So did I miss anyone? Did I get everyone today? Shout out. We had a great meeting. We had a lot of people participate, and we have a lot of great things going on in our businesses. So I've taken lots of notes from everyone, and I am going to work on getting some presentations in here to kind of address them. But again, this is only the first month. If something changes and you have needs 3 months from now, we can work those in as well. But I highly encourage everyone who can attend to come down to J-Day USA and really come and celebrate with us. It's our first in person, our last two were fully virtual. We're a fun crowd, very approachable. We'd love to have anyone you know who's anywhere in the US who can come down there and make it a vacation and spend 2 days with us, and then play around and sightsee afterwards, to really consider it. If you've got presentations, we've been calling for presenters, especially for those who can come in person. It's on the website. You can fill out a form that says be a presenter. If anyone's got questions about anything logistically, please ask myself or Joe or Laura. We'd love to have you. Any final remarks? We can look at our calendar. I'm going to just keep assuming we're doing the third Thursday. That's been working out really well. So in February, that makes it the 16th. How did everyone like the meeting?
Great.
Thumbs up. I love it. I love it that things are happening in the back end when we're not here, and people are making connections and continue to do that. Don't just, we come once a month. Reach out to people. I know I share everyone's email when I send out. If you see someone, grab their email, send them a message, message them on Facebook, and have a one-to-one with them on Zoom, because this is a virtual group. We don't live anywhere near each other. So have a virtual meeting with them and continue the conversations. All right. And Alison, thank you so much for being our spotlight today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Everyone have a great day. I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you.
Put it up on the YouTube.
Alrighty.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.